Okay, in the 15th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, after describing Purushottam Yoga, the yoga of the Supreme Person, one can naturally have the question that if the Supreme Soul is in each and every person, and if each and every person is an eternal fragment of the Supreme Soul, then why does a human being become deprived of experiencing Krita Krita, which means fulfilling all the duties that one came into this world for? What is missing inside such a person? God gives the solution to these questions in this 16th chapter. If I were to say it in another meaning, then after attaining Purushottamatva, the supremeness, the divine qualities that manifest in a human being have been described at the beginning of the 16th chapter. The name of the 16th chapter of the Gita is Deva Asura Sampad Vibhag Yoga, the yoga of the distinction between the divine and demonic endowments. The Supreme Soul gives the difference between the divine endowments and the demonic endowments, and the difference between divine characteristics and demonic characteristics. Thinkers have said it very nicely that whatever the human being himself is like, in that state the human being is a puzzle. The human being is a duality. Western philosophers have talked about the dialectic theory, and they've said that always in this world, everything that there is in a dualistic form. It is because night is there that day has a meaning. It is because sunrise is there that sunset has a meaning. Everything that is there in life and in the material world is a duality. A human being himself is like a duality. There are both light and darkness together inside a human being. There is a light of Gnan, wisdom, and there is also the darkness of Agnan, ignorance. If there is the darkness of delusion inside a human being, then there's also the light of Vivek, discrimination. We all have the experience that so many such moments in life are filled with light, and so many moments in life are filled with darkness. Happiness and sorrow stay together inside human beings. There is never a phase where we're only happy and there is absolutely no sorrows, and there's never a phase where a person's only sad and absolutely not happy. If happiness is there, sorrow is going to stay. If sorrow is there, then some happiness is also going to remain. If everybody in this world were only sad, then nobody would live in the material world. Everybody would begin leaving the material world. Yet despite there being so many sorrows, the reason why human beings last in the material world, in sansar, is because there's some pleasure there because of which they last there. And in this way, there can never be a completely happy person because some sorrow or the other is going to stay with them. A simple and straightforward example is that if you keep eating sweets, then you have to eat some chili. And if you keep eating chilies, then you'll have to have some gore, some jaggery. Both of these live together in the material world. Inside human beings, there is both the power of being an animal and the power of being the Supreme Soul. They are both there together. If human beings can become demoted, then they become animals. And if human being advances himself, then he becomes the Supreme Soul. A human being is like stairs. The bottom one step in the stairs is in hell, and the top one step in the stairs is in heaven. The human being is in the middle. If they climb down, then they reach hell, and if they climb up, they reach heaven. A human being is attention. The human being is between the two and right in the middle. Where will the journey of the human being reach? This will depend on the direction towards which the human being is walking. In which direction is the human being walking? If the human being is walking towards upstairs, then he'll develop. And if the human being is going towards downstairs, then he would be demoted. It depends on the direction in which the journey is taking place. And it's not as if once one begins walking, then they cannot change their path. The Supreme Soul has given us independence, and at any moment in life, we can change the direction in which we're walking, and we can change the direction in which our journey is going. This is because if once you have started your journey, you couldn't change it, then there would be difficulties. I often say a joke that the way that the Supreme Soul has made this life is not like American highways, but like Indian highways. What happens in American highways is that once you take the freeway or the highway, then you won't be able to turn anywhere in the road. And you can't do a U-turn anywhere in the road. If you go in the highway, then you have to keep on driving after 20, 25 or 30 miles, and a turn comes somewhere and you take it. Otherwise, you have to keep on driving and there's no place to stop. On the other hand, there's freedom on the Indian highways, and you can turn wherever you want on the road. The rickshaw driver in Ahmedabad says that the toe of my foot is outside, and therefore I showed and you gave me the sign I was turning. Life is like this. You can take a U-turn whenever you want, and come back from there whenever you want. At any moment during any circumstance in life, the direction can be changed, and the moment when you change direction, the changes will begin coming. There is only one power in the journey of life that is useful in going in both directions. The power is one whether you develop yourself or downgrade yourself. The power that is used to take one to hell, that same power can be used by the person to take them towards heaven. The power in this world that is used to become a criminal, you can use that same power to become a saint. And one should not think that you don't need to be powerful to become a criminal. You need a lot of power to become a criminal. The difficulty and toils one has to go through on the wrong path, one can go through those same difficulties and those same toils to become a saint. One has to work very hard in order to become a bad person. One has to go through a lot of difficulties in order to become a bad person. And I say that it's very easy to become a saint, and it's very difficult to become a wrong person. This is because when you go forward in order to become a saint, and when you go further on the path of straightforwardness, then this means that you are aligning yourself with your soul, your Atma. We are synchronizing with our soul and making movements in the direction of the inner truth and the inner secret. On the other hand, in order to become a bad person and in order to become a wrong person, we have to go against our inner self. This is the work that requires the most efforts of all. Whenever we go to do something wrong, then our inner self will tell us not to do it. God is going to mention the quality of sattva samshuddhir, purity of mind, in the first verse of this chapter, and I'll speak about it further. The Supreme Soul says at least once from the inside that you should stop from doing that thing. Conflicting against the sound of God and the sound of our inner self and moving ahead is a very difficult thing to do. On the other hand, when we are going on the right path, then the God residing inside us keeps telling us that, wow, child, you've done very good. Why? Wow, this is very good, so go ahead. One keeps getting power inside them, and one keeps getting inspiration inside them. This happens from the beginning. And I also say at the end that the reason why we say a bad person becomes sad in the end is that he has expended the same amount of energy, but a person who expended that energy and walked on one path became a dev, a god, whereas another person who expended as much energy in the wrong activities in the end realizes that I did not attain anything. The person who went on the right path expended energy to attain happiness, peace, rejoicing, and bliss. The person who went on a wrong path expended energy but did not attain anything. This is the regret of wasting one's energy by walking on the wrong path. This is the sorrow that there is. Both a dev, a god, and an asur, a demon, are extreme potentialities of the same human being. An individual soul can become a dev and can also become an asur. What is that thing because of which he becomes a dev or an asur? God speaks about this in the 16th chapter of the Gita, and that is why the 16th chapter of the Gita is very necessary, especially for us. There are both the possibilities of Ishwar, God, and an asur, a demon, inside us, and we must recognize that one is an Ishwar God and one is an asur demon. There is the same one mantra in the Chandogya Upanishad and also in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Deva Sura Ve Sayatir Ubaya Prajapataya. The gods and the demons are both the descendants of Prajapati, the Lord of creatures. There are also the stories in the Puranas, for example in the Srimad Bhagavad. The Rishi Kashyap had two wives, Diti and Aditi. The descendants of Diti were all called Daityas, demons, and Asurs. And the descendants of Aditi were all called Adityas, or Devs, gods. The Devs and the Daityas are the descendants of one father. What is a Dev, a god, and what is a Daitya, a demon? We will consider a Dev god to be Indra, the king of gods, Varun, the god of the sea, Kuber, the god of wealth, and these are the names we have given. These are fine, but there is something beyond this. When the senses such as the speech, etc. are used in concentration on the scriptures and karmas without vasanas, mental impressions, that both leads to attributes such as fearlessness that are described in the next few verses, then these are devs, gods. And when the senses such as the speech, etc. are used in concentration on something not ordained by the scriptures and karmas with vasanas, desires, that both lead to attitudes such as ostentation and hypocrisy, then these are asurs, demons. These characteristics of asurs, demons, such as ostentation and hypocrisy, will also be described later in this chapter. These are asurs, demons. Both these attributes become manifest in the Purush being, and that is why they're called descendants of the Purush. The attributes of both a Dev, a god, and an Asur in the hearts of all creatures for the cause of overpowering each other and for the cause of trying to ascend themselves have been conflicting with each other since time immemorial. These two attributes are in you, me, and everyone, the attribute of a Dev, a god, and the attribute of an Asur, a demon. They have both been there since time immemorial. They keep conflicting in order to try and overpower each other. The attribute of an Asur, a demon, tries to overpower the attribute of a Dev, and the attribute of a Dev, a god, tries to overpower the attribute of a demon. The conflict has been going on since time immemorial. This is the conflict of trying to overpower the other and ascending themselves. You can call these symbols of war between Sri Ram and Ravan, or you can call these symbols of war between the Pandavas and the Kauravas in the Mahabharata. At the root, these are conflicts of the divine endowments and the demonic endowments, and the conflicts of the divine characteristics and the demonic characteristics. Divine characteristics overpower the modes of rajas, passion, and tamas, dullness, and give prevalence to the mode of sattva, goodness, and through this give a human being the fruits of happiness, peace, and wisdom. These are the divine characteristics. We have seen the three modes of nature that are sattva, goodness, rajas, passion, and tamas, dullness, in the 14th chapter of the Gita. Divine characteristics overpower the modes of rajas, passion, and tamas, dullness, and give prevalence to the mode of sattva, goodness, and through this give a human being the fruits of happiness, peace, and gnan, wisdom. On the other hand, demonic characteristics overpower the mode of sattva, goodness, and give prevalence to the modes of rajas, passion, and tamas, dullness, and give rise to the cause of all meaninglessness in human beings. It becomes the duty of the seeker of liberation that he develops divine characteristics and destroys demonic characteristics, and that he collects divine endowments and gives up demonic endowments. Now we may have the question that how can one tell what are divine characteristics and what are demonic characteristics? That is why God has described the 16th chapter of the Gita. Divine characteristics and demonic characteristics are described in this chapter. In the first 3 verses of the 16th chapter, the divine characteristics are described. 26 divine characteristics are described in the first 3 verses. In the last class of Nita looked at the first verse, so the blessed Lord called them fearlessness, purity of mind, wise apportionment of wisdom and concentration, charity, self-control and sacrifice, study of the scriptures, austerity and uprightness. We'll now go on to the second verse.